Nicole Espinoza started her real estate career in 2009 with lenders in foreclosures. During her work, she noticed many of the affected families had little to no information to prevent it. That's when Nicole decided to do something about it and get into short sales. Since, she's saved thousands of homeowners from foreclosure. Nicole is a hardworking mom of two. She's the best-selling author of Short Sales Uncensored and the founder of Short Sale Queen. Now she's ready to share her secrets with the world, the good, the bad, and the ugly in entrepreneurship, and her journey to success. Here's your host of Entrepreneurship #Uncensored with Nicole Espinoza.
Welcome, episode 5, that's 10, episode 5 of Entrepreneurship #Uncensored. And today we're gonna do things a little bit different. It is just me, and I want to get a little personal and talk about why failure is the reason why you're gonna be successful. And I've posted a lot on Facebook of stories and text, but I don't think I've ever done this on video. And just being honest and real about, my journey, right? In the intro, my journey to success. And I always talk about how people are so focused on, posting their success and their highlight reel, but not where they came from. So today I want to dive in a little bit on my story and how I got here. And hopefully this will encourage people. If you're watching this and you have a business and you're trying to grow and you feel like you're drowning, right? Like we've all been there. Like we feel like we can't pay our bills, we can't pay our employees. And, I really want to talk about that today. So first things first, 2020 has been a crazy year, right? We've had COVID, we had, we won't even get into politics with everything that's going on. And there's so much noise and there's so many people out there that, it's easy to feel defeated. It's easy to feel discouraged. And I remember when COVID hit, it's been just the last 6 months has changed so much for me personally and for my business. And before that, we had a choice, right? We could either pivot, we could either adapt, or we could run out of, we could completely be out of business. And it was crazy to me on it really changed my perspective on what success really was. And the reason why I say that is because there were so many legitimate companies that couldn't make payroll after 2 weeks. There were so many companies out there that, were letting people go like crazy, and the economy shut down, and we were just in these like uncharted waters, right? And then I saw a huge shift. I saw the people that were thriving, and it's kind of like what I wrote in the description of this video of like people that were thriving because they chose to adapt and pivot, right? And it all started with them as leaders, as, people that were talking about, okay, well, we need to adapt with our business. And I think that's huge because you really have two choices. You can either succumb to your failure, right? Like you've fallen flat on your face, you spent too much money, like, hi, been there, done that. I always joke around about how I could write an entire book on just failing forward because I feel like that's literally been my journey of learning the hard way. But you can either do that or you can take that experience and pivot. You can take that experience and keep moving forward. And I remember when I started my business, I was 6 months pregnant and I just decided, Stephanie always says this, Nicole style, I just decided I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go all in. I had a salary. I had a very good job. I was miserable, but I had a really good job. And I decided that that's not what I wanted to do. And I, got into real estate and started, working with homeowners and trying to figure out like which direction that I was going to take. And I see a lot of people that start their businesses, and I get messages all the time on Instagram and on Facebook where they say, okay, I just feel overwhelmed. I feel like lost. I feel like I have no direction. And I was there. I was trying to figure out like, what can I do to stand out? Because when you're starting your business, you don't know which direction to go, right? And I always tell people, I'm like, if you need to be able to get clarity on where to go, you need to create space, because it's so easy naturally for, if you're in sales, to feel all over the place, to want to, we have a million ideas, right? We're like, for me personally, I'm high D on the DISC chart, and I have so many ideas, but I need to be able to focus on one thing. And that's what I did. I went all in on one thing. And I, spent way more money than I earned. I tried figuring out, marketing. How do I spend money doing this? How do I do this? And I was all over the place. And I remember the first person that I hired, I felt literally nauseous about having to have an employee and figuring out, I think at the time it was like $700 or $800 every pay period. And I remember in my mind, I was like, how in the world I can barely pay what I'm doing now. And I was married at the time, and I had a 6-month-old, or I was 6 months pregnant, and I had a 5-year-old, and I was just trying to figure out like how to survive, right? And stayed in that like survival mode for so long. And it took a really long time to program my mind that I mean, even to this day, sometimes I still have, those feelings of like, I have to go to the office right away, because if I don't go, then, the whole world is going to shut down, right? Because we take on, as entrepreneurs, we take on this stress, and we are more stressed out sometimes than any boss could ever put on us. And that was what I would do. I would come into the office. My life at the time was waking up at 5 a.m, trying to get work done before my kids woke up. After I got a divorce, I was trying to build my business by myself as a single mom. And I just remember just feeling so defeated. And that was my life for years. And I would like work, 60 hours a week, and then I would crash. And then I would work 60 hours a week, and then I would crash. And I felt like, there's a lot of people in this industry that I talk to that, really great on social media, right? They look really successful, and I have like these hearts to hearts with them, and I'm like, do you ever feel like you have like this imposter syndrome, right? Do you ever feel like, that you're like kind of like faking it till you make it? And I remember that was my life for a really long time, until I got to the point where I'm like, if I want to be this person, I had to create space from my environment. If I want to be this person, if I want to be a millionaire, if I want to be, this person that produces on a high level, if I want my business to be successful, like, how do I create space to figure out? I had to show up as that person. So I had to take care of myself first. And a lot of times, when you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not doing those things for yourself, I am a better leader now because I created space and I worked on me. I focused on the self-development. I focused on, getting into a routine. And it's definitely been a crazy journey the last couple years. And I feel like just now I'm figuring it out. And I still have, a long way to go, but I feel like just now I'm getting to a place where I have consistency, right? But the key of where I was and where I'm at now is that I showed up every single day and I did the work. And even though I was never scared, I've always taken action, right? Like, even if I didn't know what I was doing, lost a ton of money, spent way too much money on marketing, did all of these things, but I showed up every single day, despite how I felt. And, a lot of times you can be, I think, Satem Magali, shout out. He says this all the time, that, you can be a professional student, right? You can watch podcasts like this. You can go on YouTube and get lost and buried in all of that and never do anything about it, never apply anything. And I think it's really important to remember, nobody's posting on social media their failures. Nobody is talking about, what they're struggling with. And it took me a really long time to get to a place where I was okay with that. I remember when I started posting, like, how I felt like defeated and how, my perspective was constantly evolving and constantly changing. And I would get the best feedback on social media. And I realized how many people really needed to hear that, like really needed to hear like, hey, things are not going to be perfect every single day. Like, you're going to lose money. You're going to feel like, do I really know what I'm doing? And that's just part of being an entrepreneur. That's part of growing. That's part of being uncomfortable. I mean, honestly, like even just this, like me talking by myself, it makes me so uncomfortable. I mean, it's different when you have a guest. It's different when, you're, being able to edit the videos, right, for like YouTube, but just being able to talk and constantly putting myself in a situation where I did feel uncomfortable. I started realizing like that was the best outcome, right? Like when I started embracing that and realizing like, look how much I've grown from that, or look how much somebody needed to hear what I had to say. And I think the coolest part of from where I started to where I'm now, and then I'm still growing very much so, is to see the impact that it made on my kids, to see the impact that it made on the people in my family, to see how when I worked on my mindset, when I grew as a person, and it wasn't just me talking, it was them seeing, the difference in me as a leader, the way I showed up every single day as a mom, the way I showed up every day as a leader for my organization, the way that I showed up, with my family, like their perspective started to change. And I realized that it's not about me. Like my success and my why in the beginning was survival. Like, right? I mean, you start your business and you do it because you need money. You need food on the table. You need all of that. I mean, and I'm sure some people, that's fine. There's going to be people out there that are, inspired because they're right off the bat passionate, but I wasn't. I got into real estate because I saw opportunity to make money. And I was a kid. I was 21 years old, and I was like, you know what? I need an opportunity to be able to make more money. And then when I realized how powerful it was when I was specializing, when I started helping these homeowners who were, facing foreclosure, and realizing that I had the knowledge to be able to do something that not a lot of other people were able to do, it turned into my passion. And that was something that I went all in. Like my vision of helping these people, it started fueling my why. In the beginning, I truly believe, people talk about their why all the time, right? And I truly believe that evolves. As you start growing as a person, the reason why you're doing what you're doing is going to constantly evolve. And for me in the beginning, it was, hey, I need to pay my bills. Like, come on, who can relate to that, right? I need to pay my bills. And then it was, hey, I want to provide a life for my kids as a single mom. And then it turned into, look at the impact that I'm making on the people around me. Look at, me being uncomfortable and sharing my truth and owning it. I started getting messages from people that saying, hey, like, I really needed to hear that. And I realized that your success, you being successful, is actually a lot bigger than you. It actually has nothing to do with you. It's so much more powerful when you look at it as, it's my job to do this so that I can change other people's perspective. Like, there's so many people in your world right now that are counting on you to be successful because you have the ability to do something that no one else does. And when you align your passion and your purpose with money, right, with your business, it's so powerful. Like, my business has created so many opportunities that when I was a kid, I was 20 years old, that I never in a million years could have predicted. My drive and the reason why I started is not the reason why I do it today. I mean, I have a phenomenal team that it took, guys, I started my company over twice, okay? Like literally twice. I have fired and hired, and I mean, it's been painful. And it was a reality check for me of like, hey, you're failing because you're not setting your people up for success. And I'm still learning. I mean, we're still restructuring and we're still trying to adapt to growth. And I think the most like for me, the most encouraging thing was talking to people that were so successful and them telling me how frustrated they were. Them telling me like, oh my gosh, this sucks. I'm never going to get this hiring thing down. And I'm like, what? Like, You're doing like 10 times more than I am. So if you're frustrated at this level, then I can be encouraged that if I'm here, that it's still the same struggles. The difference is that they knew that that was just a part of it. It didn't make them shut down or quit because someone didn't work out, or because they lost money, or because they were building a business and they lost the business. I mean, they used it and utilized it to be better. I mean, there's times in my business where I realized that it was me. I was the problem. Like, I could not understand why, if I can do it, why can't you do it, right? So I have torn my business apart several times and have had to restructure, and it's exhausting. Like, if you have a business, going through that process is absolutely exhausting. And having to rebuild and be able to go, having to retrain and interview and all of that, it's just a part of it. And so, fast forward, when, I got to that point, I started surrounding myself with people, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm very stubborn. I'm very stubborn, right? The best salespeople are, because we have this mentality where we're just going to figure it out. Like, hey, I got this, right? And that was my biggest problem. Like, if I look back at all the times that I lost $30,000, $40,000 in 1 month, it makes me like nauseous just thinking about it. Or the times that I, bought a lead that I shouldn't have, like a lead program, or hired someone that I knew in my gut that wouldn't work out, but I was so overwhelmed that I just needed somebody to help me. If I look back at those times, I can honestly say that if I would have just gotten over myself, if I would have talked to people that knew more, if I would have valued that wisdom of people that have already gone through that and not try and reinvent the wheel, like, I would have saved so much heartache, so much money. And it wasn't until I realized, like, I am not the end all be all, I don't know everything, that things started to really change. And it changed the entire dynamic. I started realizing, like, I can learn from anyone. Like, I want to be the student. As much as I love speaking and I love helping people, like, I want to learn, like, I want to grow. And I've always had that perspective of, like, I don't know anything. Like, please tell me your perspective. Tell me what you have to offer, because even someone that hasn't been in the industry that long, or someone that hasn't been around, they have a whole new fresh perspective that you wouldn't know, right? Because if you're doing this for so long, you're jaded and you're doing it a certain way. And having that collaboration has been huge. And I see so many people, specifically in my industry in real estate, that are so focused on, competing. They're so focused on, like, building their brand by themselves, that they are missing out on a huge opportunity. Like, there's so many people that, I could just tag a bunch of people in this video, or shout out a bunch of people that have been instrumental to my growth. And, and it goes hand in hand, right? It goes hand in hand with your mindset. And I hesitate to use that word because we kind of throw it around a lot. But if you knew how important, how you think, the things that you're putting in front of yourself, the things you're listening to, things you're reading, if you knew how important that was, it wouldn't be a word that you're just numb to. It wouldn't be a word like that, is overused, because it's so powerful. It starts with you. In your organization, it starts with you. You as a leader, like we talked about this, I think, on one of the podcasts about affirmations and how powerful they are. How powerful it is to every single day train yourself to believe your outcome. Like, I have 30, 60, 90, a year goal. Like, I have all of that where I was so hyper focused. Like, this is what I need to be able to get from point A to point B. And none of that would have happened if I didn't have clarity of what I wanted and why it was important to me. And I'm going on a tangent, but I think, going back to the subject of what the point of this podcast was, is that failure really is the key to your success. Because if I hadn't failed so much, and unfortunately so often, I wouldn't be so grateful and have so much gratitude for where I am at now. Like, there are times where I have literally just cried because I'm just like so happy and so grateful to just be in a position to have opportunities, to be in a position to have my time back. Because I remember what life looked like just 2 years ago. I remember, how much I would look at my bank account and be so frustrated because I was making all of these sales, but I was broke, and how I couldn't make payroll. Like, I remember feeling like, how does all this money come into my bank account and it's going right back out? And I feel like if you don't go through that, if you don't keep going and pushing through at that point of your life, like, you won't ever get to the point where you have this gratitude of, yeah, I've been there and I don't want to go back. And keep moving forward and getting to that point. And I feel like, I see so many people that, they reach out to me and they're like, I feel so defeated. And there's no right or wrong way to deal with what's going on in the world. There really isn't. The only wrong way that I think is that if you completely shut down and you don't keep adapting, right? Like, what's the saying? If you don't adapt, you die. If you're not able to pivot and you're not able to move forward and think of a different way or provide solutions for your business and for the people in your world, like, you're not going to be able to survive. And I think with COVID and everything that's happened, like, I said this on a post, it was a couple weeks ago. No, it wasn't a couple weeks ago. It was a couple months ago, something like that. And I remember I had this lady attack me on Facebook because I said, I don't care what's going on with the world. Like, I have so much clarity on, what I need to do, how I need to show up for the people around me. And I remember she wrote something like, what is wrong with you that you don't care what's going on in the world or whatever? And I'm like, you're missing the whole point. You're missing the entire point of what I'm trying to say, of that I'm not going to let circumstances like the elections. And, it was funny. I was actually writing on my post and I was like, are you sure you want to share this? Because I mentioned presidents in my post today. That it doesn't affect me, because it has no bearing on my outcome, on what I'm going to do and how I'm going to show up for the people in my life. It has no bearing or outcome on the people in my world and what I need to do for my business. And the cool thing about what's happened this year is that COVID really gave me an opportunity to just really gain some perspective. When I had to figure out and evaluate my business. And I was worried, we didn't know if we were going to be able to close on deals. We didn't know what was going to happen. And I remember freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, what if we don't have closings for 60 days? What if we don't have any income that comes in? How am I going to pay my employees? Like, am I going to have to let them go so I don't deplete, my personal savings or wipe myself out if, it goes on 2 or 3 months? And I remember talking to one of my coaches and really good friends, and I remember he told me, he's like, you have to cut down your expenses and you have to figure out how can you create more income. I mean, it was really that simple. Like, if you can't create it from here, how can you be creative and figure out a way to add value to the marketplace so that you can adapt? And I just remember, like, when that happened, I was freaking out. I was like in tears because I love my girls and I didn't want to make any major moves or changes. And it was just such a blessing. I mean, first of all, it helped our communication like so much. It forced us to even get closer as a team and to over communicate because we weren't all in one office anymore. It showed a lot about, just my operations manager, about her and what she was willing to do to help with the business and the overall goal. And everybody had the same perspective. They were grateful just to have a job, and they knew, like, ultimately the goal was to help the business so that we could, keep moving forward and stay open. And there's so many lessons that I learned just from the last 6 months. First of all, once I cut expenses down to 40%, I don't think I'll ever go back to what we were doing before. But most importantly, I learned that, like, what was important, right? Like, just this year, COVID just showed me, like, I wanted peace. I wanted to be happy. Like anything can happen, right? It's 2020. We still have, a couple more months. So who knows what it's going to throw at us. But it was just such a huge mind shift change for me, where I realized, like, I want to be happy. I want to have peace. Like, what is really important to me? Like tomorrow, if it all went to shit, like what would actually matter and what would be important? And I challenge you, as we have, we're in November, we are at the end of the year, like what is going to change? What's the one thing that you can do for 2021 that you can learn from your failures from this year? And what can you do to implement that's going to change the trajectory of your business and the trajectory of your life going into 2021? Because things are going to change. The market's going to change. Businesses are doing things so much differently. I mean, think about just the new life that we're living, the new normal. So hopefully this helped, and hopefully, you can resonate with anything that I'm saying. And, I appreciate you guys watching. And as we wrap up, I want to, make sure that comes across, that, everything that I said. But anyways, next week, we are going to have RJ Bates and Cassie. I am so excited to have them on. They are definitely two of the people that have been alongside my journey and have helped me, and we've been able to network and mastermind, and I've learned so much from them. So I'm very excited to have them on the show. If you guys are on iTunes and Spotify, remember it's being recorded on YouTube as well. Like, subscribe, all of that. And I'll see you guys next week.